Here you go, Michelle.
Thank you. All right, good morning, everybody. So we're going to talk a little bit today about faculty internships. If you want to put in the chat what department you're from, and maybe if you're an advisor or a faculty sponsor, or if you have any specific questions, that would be great. Diana, let me know if there's anything in there I need to address. So I'm going to go through and talk a little bit about who's in our office and what our roles are. So when you have questions, you know who to talk to, and most everybody's on the call as well. So Diane and Jenny are our office staff, and they will answer any questions. They do virtual drop-ins. They take care of the process behind the scenes, make sure everything is filled out correctly, that the students are contacted. They communicate with the students and the faculty sponsors if needed. And so that's kind of who they are and what they do. Sheila is our associate director, and she administers the co-op and co-op scholarships. And she works quite heavily with the international areas. So students doing study abroad internships and international students doing internships or co-ops. So she helps with all those processes. She also administers the skills survey, which we'll talk about later, which is our evaluations for students. And that's a national company based on the NACE competencies. And she's an instructor of GST 101.
Also covers the Disney now that Disney's back up and running.
Right, and Disney, yep. Diane's gonna check my notes to make sure I didn't miss anything.
I'm gonna chirp in every once in a while. Sorry.
No, do that. Tina is also on the call. There she is. And she develops the internship site contacts and relationships and makes sure that any of our internships meet all the standards and policies, and that they're vetted for all the things that, mentoring, and she makes sure that the position descriptions are appropriate and during the right dates, all those kind of things. So she reviews all those things, does visits and site visits and different events and things. She's going to talk a little later about that process as well. And she helps students find their internships when they're struggling to find positions. We also brought on Jeff Bradbury, who's a professor in communication studies, and he is the faculty sponsor for many, many students in communication. And so I'm going to turn it over to Jeff for a minute and let him talk a little bit about the faculty sponsor role and the advisor role.
Unmute the microphone, first step. Yeah, so it's hard to believe I've been doing this now for I think like 6 years or 5 years or something like that. I'm actually the internship coordinator for the communication studies department, and so that actually there's 4 areas in there. There's the regular communication and social interaction. There's public relations, there's journalism, and then there's broadcasting. And so any of the students who are interested in an internship or have an internship already get directed to me to sort of, guide them. And more often than not, I think the best thing about being an internship faculty sponsor is all the wonderful support I get from all the people at Excel. I mean, because at the end of the day, if I forget something or I'm something that I hadn't done in a little while, a quick email to them, and they're always right back with the answer, and that is always a huge help. But it's I'll start with the advisor role. That's been actually streamlined a ton, and it's actually so much simpler now being paperless. But basically as an advisor, there's a couple of things that come up. Usually the big thing is to just, a lot of times students will hopefully advisors are some of the people that tell students in the first place, like, hey, you know, maybe an internship would be a good thing for you to do. You know, you're at, you know, almost maxed out at credits and discipline, and you know, you can do an internship as GST whatever, or GST 498 or something like that, and not have it go over in discipline. But the big thing for the advisor is that they're going to check and make sure that the student meets the requirements, like the 2.5 GPA and junior or senior status. That's not the same for all departments, is it, Michelle? Or it's mostly most, I think, departments are those requirements there for our department anyway.
That's the main requirement. Sometimes there are higher requirements for each department. So.
Okay, that's what I thought. But and a lot of times students are confused as to how to take an internship. So, for example, a lot of students end up, you know, in their advisor is usually the one to kind of help them figure this out. They're not really sure whether to do it as, for example, BRC 498, which would be in our department. That would be handy if they wanted to actually take it to fulfill an elective in one of the requirements or something like that. And sometimes they're just unaware that they can take the experiential learning as GST 498 and have it not count in discipline. So that's a place where the advisor can help a lot. The advisor role in Handshake is much more streamlined now, in that they can just go in and they can kind of check off these boxes, and you know, and I think they also have to check off the box that the student doesn't need an overload, and that's really kind of the gist of that. Want me to roll right into
that? I'm going to show that later. I'm going to go through that.
Okay. Do you want me to talk a little bit about being a faculty sponsor now? Or?
Sure.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay. Good segue. Yeah. So being a faculty sponsor, and that's it's changed a little bit with you know, everything going online and stuff like that. And it's what I first found challenging was that you know, I really sort of would, the best way that I got started, you know, before was, you know, I'd have the students come and meet me in my office, and I would talk them through the whole process, and I would, you know, literally break out what's now the SMART objectives learning sheet, which runs them through writing their learning objectives, and would present that stuff with them. And that worked really good. Of course, I can do the same thing via Zoom now, which I have done. Oftentimes I find there's two main ways that students come to me as a faculty sponsor. The first way is that they are truly, I have to remember not to mix up my roles as internship coordinator for the department and faculty sponsor. But as a faculty sponsor, a lot of times the students will ask you, they say, okay, I have an internship and I need a faculty sponsor. And so the first thing I do as a faculty sponsor is just, you know, ask them a little bit about the internship, and just sort of get an idea of where they are in the process. Sometimes they're coming at the whole thing right from ground zero. They haven't found an internship yet, or they're got a few places in mind. Michelle and the girls at Excel have created these 5 phases. So I send them a link to what Michelle has up right now, the 5 phases of an internship, which will guide them through the process of finding an internship. Just as it says there, the plan ahead, the search and apply, and then step 3, the formalized internship co-opposition. What I find more and more now, or, you know, about 50% of the time, the students come to me asking me to be their faculty sponsor when they've already found an internship. So what I've done is I just say, okay, to those students, I say, go and see these five phases, read through them, but you can pretty much start with phase 3. If they already have, been talking with a company and stuff like that, they can start with phase 3, which is going to be for them to verify the position. And, when they do that, I try to kind of throwing all this at them. I think one of the tough things about being a faculty sponsor too is that the students, a lot of times, they just want to sign up for the class and be done with it. You kind of have to break the news to them that, okay, there's a little bit of a process to this. There's some, I hate to use this term, but the hoops you got to jump through in order to, do this for credit. And so, I sort of try to break it down for them in the initial email. And the first thing is that they really just need to get their site supervisor at the internship to go and fill out this site verification form. That's really the bottom line of that phase, and it's all listed in that in the directions there and stuff like that. And I think once they do that, that kind of gets the ball rolling, and everything else sort of starts to happen in place. The next thing, and probably the most important part of, especially in the beginning stages of being a faculty sponsor, is to work with them writing their learning objectives. And so, and what I've done is I try to, if I can, get to them or talk to them before they go through this process, or I tried to talk to them a little bit in the initial email without throwing too much at them. I basically just say that, look, you're going to have to write these learning objectives, and if you don't put a little bit of thought and a little bit of consideration into writing them, that they're going to be rejected. That it's not something that you just kind of skip through, and that it's going to come back. And I would say 80 to 90% of the time, the students read it and do a really good job in writing the learning objectives, and that's great. Sometimes what happens is, they just write something that's just way too simple. They write like one long learning objective and think that that's enough. I mean, really the qualifications are they're supposed to write 5 learning objectives that, fulfill the requirements that are on that SMART. I like that sheet. I keep that sheet on my desktop, ready to attach to an email at all times, because, it's that's the thing where if the students didn't write some pretty good learning objectives in the beginning, it's because they just didn't take the time to read those directions and look at the examples and stuff. So usually the best way to fix it is I just email them that and I say, look, you really need to read this over and take a look at the examples and try to, try to reach out and think about some of the courses you've taken and how you can tie in what you want to learn and what you want to gain and experience to some of the coursework you've taken. And then it usually clicks, and they and they do a much better job.
So I'm going to point out, so this is a new worksheet that we just created. So this is one of the resources I wanted to share, since Jeff gave me a good segue here. So we had our graduate assistant this year help create this for students. So it's a fillable, it's a Google Doc, they can copy it and fill out. And we really walked through the SMART objectives and how to write those goals working from home. So those are, right here for them to fill out. There's a little worksheet that they can use. And then there's also a guide with up here, if you click on this, it gives them lots of samples and active words to use and different ways to sort of think about their learning objectives. Because we tell them that the learning objectives are really what you're going to write all your assignments about, all that information, what you're going to get from the internship, not what you're going to do for them, but what are you going to get and how are you going to use these skills for your future? So that's really what those are for. So, so we put together this worksheet, these guidelines that should really help you work with the student to write good learning objectives. So check it out, let us know. We're happy to take feedback if there's more things that are needed, but we wanted to balance, you know, not too overwhelming, but some real good, you know, ways for them to do that. So we gave really specific questions that they can answer when writing their learning objectives. So we thought that was helpful.
One thing I've found that I think helps the students too is that one of the final assignments that you're going to give them as a faculty sponsor is to write a final summary paper. And so I say, one way you can look at writing the learning objectives is you're kind of, you know, really helping yourself write your paper in the end, because you're saying, you know, these are the things I want to learn. And at the end, you can literally just kind of write about, you know, these learning objectives, you know, did I meet these goals? You know, that's one way to think about it too, is to respond to those afterwards.
It also helps them in the future put information on their resume and things of what they've actually gained out of these internships. And it's what connects the classroom work that they've, you know, gained in their courses and their information to the internship, and how does that work together. And that's where the faculty sponsor link comes in, because that's where you, as the faculty sponsor, helps the students make those connections. You know, I'm just working here. What are the skills I'm getting that are going to help me move on in my career and my goals? Go ahead.
No, I was just going to add one thing, that in my review of the learning objectives, because I usually get them first, is students have a tendency to put their position responsibilities down. So we really have to, as a faculty sponsor, be making sure that they're not rewriting those and really what they want to learn from those position responsibilities. So that's just a key difference of what we're seeing from students. But overall, they're doing a pretty good job if they use this form.
That's a good point. I literally do sometimes just have to email them and say, okay, these aren't learning objectives. This is the responsibilities of what you're actually going to do at your internship. You have to think about and tell us what you actually want to gain or learn, or yeah, exactly. That does happen from time to time.
And I'm going to go a little bit over the assignments at some point through this. Okay. But one of the assignments for midterm is about your tasks and your responsibilities. And we actually updated a little bit to say, tell us about your task at midterm, your tasks and responsibilities, and how do they connect to your learning objectives. So we added that second part recently to sort of, which I think is what was always intended, but it wasn't written as clearly as it could have been. So hopefully that'll give them that ability to say, you know, these learning objectives, I might need to tweak them, or, you know, this isn't quite working, or just to be able to talk to their supervisor and say, I'm not getting what I thought I was going to get out of this. Is there a way we can make this, you know, have a better learning experience, you know, things like that. So, you know, we try to make all these connections the best we can. Sometimes it becomes some of those hoops that the students think it's hoops, but there's methods to our madness. So I'm going to go quickly through the different phases. Okay. Thanks, Jeff. But I'm going to run into the phases a little bit just so people understand. There are little tutorials for the 5 phases, which are on our Excel YouTube channel. And unfortunately, you have to listen to my voice for a while. Each one is a couple of minutes long, and it just walks them through the process. So, and gives them the things that they have to remember about each area. So the first phase is plan ahead. That's when the advisor, when the student should be working with their advisor. And this should be done a semester or 2 prior to the internship, because this is them thinking about, am I going to do it for Broadcasting 498? How many credits? You know, is this doable in my degree time? Is there, you know, all those kind of things. And that's what the advisor really needs to understand and be able to talk to the students about. It talks about the difference between internships and co-ops. So a co-op is a full-time paid experience, but they don't earn credit. They're considered full-time, but they don't earn credit for that. So it's, you know, you're taking a semester away from classes to get this experience. And many of these co-ops will lead to full-time positions. So there's a great way to, you know, great reason to do a co-op. The internships can be paid or unpaid. I want to make that really clear because that's something that people miss all the time. We would rather them have a paid experience and get credit than an unpaid experience and get credit. We want them to get credit.
But I just drop a note on that, Michelle, looking at the populations of faculty that we do have in here. It's really great because we've got business faculty, and we've got some communications and schema in general. Those two populations are important with what Michelle just said, because business interns, accounting, finance, those areas, a lot of their internships are already paid, and we do treat them like employment as well. With working with a lot of our sites with like New York State labor standards and everything, a lot of our startup organizations are something to be aware of if you're having a student talk to you about a startup organization, because many of those organizations are not aware of New York State labor law around minimum wage and internships and all of that. So be aware of that they might want to come talk to someone in Excel so we can kind of work them through that and what things they should be aware of in applying to those internships. And then in schema, communication, media, and the arts, huge area for a lot of unpaid internships. A lot of those organizations are for-profit organizations and require students to earn academic credit. And a lot of students don't realize that. Even if they're willing to do an unpaid internship, they'll go to the site and be like, oh, well, I really don't want to go get credit through the school. And then we tell them, well, here's all the great stuff. And they're like, oh, just kidding, I do want credit. But summer is a financial concern for a lot of students with summer credit costs. So it is something to be aware of because a lot of the schema area internships are occurring over the summer, and students usually are required to earn credit, not by us, by the site. So,
and a little segue there, we do have a funding page where we have lots of donations from, well, not lots, but some great donations from alum who are supporting students doing internships. So they have to be registered for an internship credit, at least usually 3 credits or more, and they can earn, they can get some funding to defer those costs for those internships. The other piece on this phase 1 is the eligibility. You know, there's regulations for international students. There's the 2.5 GPA, junior, senior. You know, all those pieces are in there. But they should also look at if they're going to get business 498 or if they're going to get tech ed, you know, 498 credit, then they need to make sure they're checking the catalog, because those catalog courses descriptions will explain what the other eligibility are. Some of them have higher GPA requirements. They should check those out. Our timelines and deadlines, very important for students to be reviewing. And basically we have the ideal time, which is, you know, the semester before during advanced registration. We really want students to be doing those learning agreements and things prior to that. And there's a couple reasons for that. If they are not doing their internship, they're not registering for their internship until later, then they're sitting in classes, taking up seats in classes for other students. So we want to make sure that they're working on this ahead of time. Plus there's a process, and sometimes there's some, you know, snafus that happen in the middle that take it a little longer to get through that process for one reason or another. And we want them to be ready to start their internship right at the beginning of classes. So we don't want them to lag too long on that. And they can't start at their site until they're registered, officially registered through the whole approval process. So we want to make sure that they do that. You know, this is the dates that we can't go past, but these are the dates that we prefer. So that's why they're in green. So just a little note there. And then the funding opportunities, which I will pass for the moment, but the search and apply is phase 2. And Tina's going to talk a little bit about that, about why, you know, how to go about looking for an internship. And I know she's doing a presentation after this about on-campus internships as well. So pass it over to Tina.
Hi. Yes, if any of you are also supervisors of internships, feel free to join me at 10. So our students, they have so many, a lot of students will come, and I have staff and faculty ask me all the time, Tina, how do students find an internship? And I say, well, you know what? If we've got about 7,000 students, then that means we probably have 7,000 different routes that students are going to find internships. It's really important to realize, based on the major, based on the industry they're looking in, that every process for students is going to be different. It might not have them be, okay, go look on Handshake. Okay, go do some outreach with some local people. Okay, do you know anybody in this area that you want to kind of branch out to, or use the alumni LinkedIn tool? It's going to vary. So for example, I've got Richard Bush on here, technology education students in the Tech Ed 6 credit required internships. Those students, that population, a lot of times they are looking on Handshake. A lot of times they're actually finding internships with family friends of companies, because a lot of their families are in either construction or technology in general. Those internships are usually the for-profit sector. They're paid internships. So a lot of students are finding them on Indeed.com and Career Shift, which I'll talk to you about in a second, and Handshake, because a lot of our employers that we're pushing there that are really, they have those HR teams that are taking the time to post internship opportunities for students. They are using things like Handshake. Career Shift, if you're not familiar with Career Shift, I really want you to be, just because Career Shift has been around even since I was a student through 2011 to 2015, and before that, so even before my time as a student. And that is essentially like hotels.com for hotels, where it pulls in all of these postings from around the internet. So students actually enjoy using Career Shift and oftentimes don't know about it, that they can use their oswego.edu email, and it's free to them. It's normally a paid service to anybody else, but again, SUNY Oswego Career Services Office pays for that service for students. So they can use that email, and it'll pull from Indeed, it'll pull from LinkedIn, it'll pull from actual company web pages as well, not just those job web pages. I heavily work on that with students because Handshake is a great resource for all of the organizations that we have pipelines to, but we're not perfect. We don't have pipelines to hundreds of thousands of organizations that are only working with SUNY Oswego. That would be crazy for us to think that that's the case. We want to make sure that they have all the resources and that they realize, yes, Handshake's an amazing tool. Definitely start there if you're looking local, or if you're looking in like New York City area, because there are a lot of postings in that area. But it really comes down to, we work with the student to figure out where they're at, the location they're going to be in, the industry that they're in, to kind of sit down and think, okay, is it going to be Career Shift and Handshake, or we need to sit there and kind of talk to them about how to formulate an email to an internship supervisor that's a prospective host. I just had a phone call the other day with a student in the human development area, human services, public services, law areas, government, all of those areas. Most of those students are not finding their internships through Handshake and Indeed and LinkedIn. They are usually working to do an outreach method where we'll sit down, we make a spreadsheet, we use Google. I'm a millennial. I use Google for everything. What I've noticed is a big difference between myself and a lot of our Gen Z students. It tends to be that they're like, I could Google it. And I'm like, I promise that's always been a resource to you. So we'll make a list of a whole bunch of organizations in a locale that they're looking into. And we'll talk about, okay, how do we reach out to this group? Are we just emailing the info@whateverorganization.com? We talk about each individual case. We make them a spreadsheet on how to go about outreach at each individual organization. And I talk it through with them very logically, because they're not thinking about, okay, you're right, I'm not talking to an HR person. I'm talking to the person who's actually going to host me. Okay, you're right. I might be talking to the director of public safety at Oswego County Health Department versus an HR recruiter at a big corporation. And how to have that conversation with the person you're having that with, and talk about internships. The phone call I mentioned a moment ago was, I had a human development situation where the student called me and they're like, Tina, I can't tell if they offered me an internship. And I'm like, well, let's talk that through, because it's not an HR recruiter. And essentially this person had told them, get back in touch with me. We'll figure out your schedule later on towards fall. And she's like, I think that means that they offered me an internship. And I'm like, yes, they did offer you an internship. Every industry is very different. I've seen very different conversations in theater areas, music areas. Usually in your business areas, you've got a very cut dry EOE, paid, strategic recruitment process, interview process. But all of these different industries, it's really important because we also have career coaches that I tend to push students to, especially if they're not seeking internship credit. But again, most of our students are seeking internship credit. We are trying to encourage them to be credited as much as possible, also so they're on record with us. But yeah, if you've got questions about the different methods that are able to be used and how we kind of pocket them and how to help your students in that way, please reach out to me. I'm happy to kind of give you some tips on what industries work best with what.
Tina's also going to be doing a little phase video on
outreach
and probably some workshops in the fall for students on how to do that. So stay tuned.
Yeah, faculty welcome as well.
Yep. So I'm going to move on to phase 3. So once they find the internship and they are ready to start the process to get the credit, they are going to have their site supervisor fill out their verification form, which is on the Foresight's website for supervisors. So there's information on there for the different supervisors. Students need to fill out the prior felony questionnaire, which is through My Oswego. And this is a part of the policy from SUNY. It's the long and short of it is that we no longer ask at admissions if students have a felony, but we do have to ask for certain experiences if they do. So they fill it out, it's confidential. If they say yes, they have a felony, then there's a process that goes behind that. There's a committee that reviews to make sure that there's no risk of sending a student to a site. So we have to make a decision there on that. So there's a committee that works on that. So have the student fill that out right away so that if there is a issue, we have some time to make sure that process, because that's not going to be a 2-day process. They have to provide information and stuff. So that's a quick one, but it's a quick question, yes or no. If it's a yes, then there's a process behind that. At this point, they should find a faculty sponsor. So if there's a departmental faculty sponsor, the advisor hopefully has told them who that is and they've contacted that faculty sponsor. But at this point, that's when they should start talking to the faculty sponsor about the position that they're getting and the information so they can begin working on those learning objectives. The site fills out the verification form, which answers all the questions that Tina's going to review to make sure that the student is, that the internship meets all the quality standards, the liability standards. They're going to get the right number of hours. Is it summer? Is it fall? And I didn't mention earlier, but in the summer, faculty sponsors do get a stipend through extended learning. So it's per credit per student. So if you are a faculty sponsor that does several summer ones, you'll get some, stipend out of that too. So that's nice. Phase 4, did I miss anything in phase 3? I don't think so. So phase 4 is when sort of the rubber hits the road. This is when they have to do all the information. There's academic assignments. So they're going to meet with the faculty sponsor. They're going to fill out their learning objectives. They're going to fill out a request, their information. They're going to get a email from Excel, which I'm going to show you that in a minute. Before I pop over there, the academic assignment requirements for faculty sponsors. So one of the things, our role, Excel's role in internships is really the administration. You want to make sure the students are being, having quality internships. They're not being exploited. They're not doing things where they're, free labor. Those are the things that we review on our end. We help put the structure in place so that we have all those processes. But really the academic assignments and the grading is up to the faculty sponsor. We have some structure so that a 12 credit internship with one faculty sponsor isn't wildly different than a 12 credit internship with another faculty sponsor. So we give some guidelines on how many academic assignments they should be, for each credit. But it's really up to the faculty sponsor. So if, Tech Ed, for example, has a syllabus, they have specific assignments that they give for their students that are getting a 6 credit internship, because it's a process that they do part of their thing. So I am confident that that sort of meets the standards that we figured out, so that it's about the same amount as somebody else doing a 6 credit internship. So we have, in the last few months, actually, we've gone through all the assignments, made sure that every assignment, so you could say when you get into the request, and I'm going to show this in a minute, how many, if they're doing it for 4 credits, they're going to do the midterm, the final paper, and so the guidelines are right here. There's the midterm summary of tasks and responsibilities and how they will help you with your learning objectives. I talked about that earlier. And then it's assign at least 2 additional assignments. So we have some assignments here that the faculty sponsor can choose, but there's also down at the bottom, a specific project or presentation developed by the faculty sponsor. So if you want to give the student a, 6-page research paper versus some of these other things, then you have that ability to do that, as long as it's about, the same, about 2 assignments worth, so it's just needs to be comparable. And then there's a printable version of this with the different assignments that you can kind of look at. Okay, let's go back to my slides. Okay, so this is the phase 4 process. This is what the student will receive as an email. And there's resources that are attached to it, the learning objective worksheet, standards and facts. Oh, I kind of missed that. In phase 1, there is a standards and facts sheet that explains all the different policies that students need to be aware of when they're looking for internships. For example, they cannot have an internship with their mother as the site supervisor. And you would think that people would get that, but probably once a year we have one that we have to go back to and say, yes, your mom can't be your site supervisor, or another, any relative can't be a supervisor for an internship for credit. Pieces like that are all in that standards and facts, so students should review that. Another student cannot supervise an intern, so you can't have a internship for credit that a student is supervising that student. So there's lots of different pieces that they need to be aware of, and that's all in that one spot. So they're going to get the instructions to how they go about going into Handshake and filling out the request. And you're going to see a little piece of that on the faculty sponsor side. I'm going to go in and show you the advisor piece and the faculty sponsor approval piece. But they're going to fill that out. They're going to fill out their learning objectives. And that's all in that phase video. I've walked them through that whole process and how to do that. And if you look at the bottom of the phase videos, there's links with time stamps so you can get to those pieces if you want to review what that looks like as well. Okay, so this is the email that you will get if you are the advisor or the faculty sponsor. It's exactly the same. It's really important that you keep that email, because you can get back to the learning agreement by clicking on the link at the bottom here. We cannot send you that link again. So please make sure you save those emails, because once those emails go away, we can't send you the link again to get back in. We can send you a PDF of it, but it's not pretty and it's not easy to read. So please make sure you keep those emails all in one spot and you can get it. So I'm gonna pop on over to my email. Diane filled out a request for me. So I'm gonna go in and show you what it looks like. Now this is going to be what it's going to be. If you are an advisor and a faculty sponsor for the same student, you're going to get 2 separate emails. Those links are unique to the advisor and the faculty sponsor. So you're going to need to go back in again. So I'm going to do this one and I'm the advisor. So I'm going to review the request. How am I doing on time? I got 10 minutes. I can do this. Okay. So this is what it's going to look like. This is the job details. So you can see the basic details, the learning objectives. So this is where the learning objectives will be entered and you can review them. And then there's going to be a PDF. So this is what the verification form looks like. The verification form isn't as pretty as it used to be. We went to Qualtrics because we were using FormSite and it was going to be very expensive to continue using. So we went to Qualtrics. It's not quite as nice as the FormSite was, but we're going to make it work. So you might not want to print it because it's going to be really long. So where the other one was probably 2 pages long, this one is not. So it'll give all the information you need to know about the responsibility or the responsibilities of the position. And what faculty sponsors should know is if you don't think this is appropriate for credit in your area, you need to contact us and let us know, because you absolutely have the right to say no to an internship. So if this student is getting tech ed major, I keep picking on Rich because he's right next to me on the screen. And he says, this isn't a tech ed 498 for 6 credits. I don't approve this. He can say no. So you would decline it in the process, and then we would have to talk it through and figure out, maybe Tina would go back to the site and say, we need to tweak this, or I don't know, we would have to work through that. I don't have that happen very often, but I want faculty sponsors to know that Tina reviews it for standards and mentoring and the pieces that she reviews it for, but faculty sponsors need to review it to make sure it's appropriate for their credit that they're giving. That's your, if it's not a GST, it's really for your department, and you should be aware it's in your major, so. The student fills out a long survey with all the different information. So they would talk about, that we have some COVID questions in there right now. So we have to acknowledge that information, which hopefully we will be able to get rid of soon to make this a little shorter. But GST 498, 3 credits, we have them really outline what that means. The credits, 8 to 10 hours equals 120. That's just so that we are aware that they're aware what they're supposed to be doing. So, and then they agree to some things about what that all means. Also, if it's summer or winter, they have to pay for those credits. And sometimes students don't realize that. So we make sure that they answer those questions. So then if you go, sorry, I can't see around my laptop. I'm gonna go back here. If you pop through your survey, so as the academic advisor, there's only 2 questions. Does the student meet the requirements? And if they do, you just say yes. If they don't, then you have to make sure you fill out, if you're going to approve it for a deviation, you have to fill out that prereq deviation. If it's a departmental code, so if they're doing COM 498 or Tech Ed 498, that prereq deviation is based through your department. If it's a GST and they don't meet the requirements, then I have to approve it at the end that it's a GST course. So I'm going to say yes. Will the student need an overload? If it's an overload for them, then you also have to fill that out as well. So I'm going to say they don't need an overload, and then I'm going to go to next year response. You can put a little code in, a little comment in here if you want. I don't believe the student sees that comment, just us. And then you would approve the experience. And that's it. So now I'm going to go back to my email because I should have gotten another email as the faculty sponsor. It's going to be very slow. Hopefully it'll come through very quickly. There it is. So there is the next email for faculty sponsor. So obviously if you're only one or the other, you're only going to get 1 email, but if you are both, then you need to go in twice. Okay. So now I'm going to go in and I will get the faculty sponsor links. And that one's a little bit more detailed. So again, you can look at the experience, you can see the student survey, and now you can see the academic advisor as well. Oh, wait, this is still the academic advisor. Sorry about that. Maybe I'm still popping through. That's 9 hours ago. That's the wrong one. Sorry. Oh, I see. It stacked them. Always when you're recording, right? Okay, try this again. Okay. Like I said, you can see all those things. Now it gets to the faculty sponsor survey. So we added this piece recently because we had faculty sponsors that wanted to decline the experience based on the learning objectives. So they wanted to say these learning objectives aren't good enough. And the way it used to be, they had to go through the whole process. But now if you decline here, it'll skip right to decline, and you just hit decline, and then you can go back and talk to the student, have them update their learning objectives. Then you would go back into this link and do the rest of the approval. So I'm going to approve them. Diane did very good learning objectives. And I'm going to do next page. Always make sure you do next page, because otherwise it won't let you do the response. Okay, so here's the faculty. Can everybody read that, or is it too small? Is it legible? Okay. So the required assignments, so you're going to say where you want them. Do you want them in your email? Do you have a shared drive? Do you have a Blackboard shell? I'm going to use Blackboard shell. Timesheets, this just explains that you need to look at timesheets. We're going to collect them from Excel, and it's now, there's a new online timesheet. So we're going to collect those, but you need to make sure before you give them their grade at the end that they've done all their hours. So don't give them an H for honors if they've only done, half of their hours. So they didn't complete it, right? So the timesheets, I'll utilize those, and the evaluation's the other piece. So make sure that you're looking at the timesheets and the evaluation. And we have in the evaluation, I believe the site supervisor kind of gives them a grade too. So, if they get a D from their site supervisor, that might tell you something that it wasn't a very good internship or they didn't do a good job. So you can say 2 to 4 credits, whatever number of credits based on the student information. I also want to point out this last piece. So tech ed, psych, wellness management, HDV, all have required internships, and they have syllabus, they have classes that go along with them. So they have specific credits, assignments that they use. At this point, you don't have to fill out the rest if you're in one of those areas. So you just click this experience and it'll skip to the end. If you're not one of those areas, you need to tell them what credits, go to next page. And this is where you're going to outline the due dates of the experience and what other assignments. So I'm just going to do this really quick. 3/12/21. I'm going to do the same thing. Detailed logs. I'm going to pick 2 assignments because it says 2 additional, and I picked 2 to 4. So I'm going to pick a scholarly paper, and then I would outline topic, whatever the topic is, fill that out with the due date because I'm picking a specific assignment. And all of the guidelines for these are on our website. So you can say to the student, do the final paper based on the guidelines with Excel. All right, next page. And then if you have a comment here, if you want to say anything, you can, you don't have to. Go to your response and you approve the experience or decline the experience. If you decline the experience, then it's going to kick back to us. We will reach out and say what's up. If you're going to decline, put a reason in here. That would be helpful. And then we will reach out to the student, help work with you to figure out how to fix whatever the experience is. Okay. So, any questions on that piece? No? Okay.
So Michelle, you're at 10 up.
Oh, okay. So last piece is the phase 5, the assignments, the internship timesheet, skill survey guide. Sheila was going to talk about skill survey. This is the eval. She's got a great guide on here now. Sorry, Sheila, we took too much time. So the skill survey guide here, she just put up there, so it's great. It'll walk you through how to go through that evaluation with a student. And that's it. So did you want to say anything quick, Sheila, about the skill survey?
Just to remember that that's part of the grade, that it will come out, pre-email notice will come out a couple of weeks prior to the end of that finals week, that we're comparing those competencies between a site and the student. The guide, as Michelle mentioned, is new, and that will really step by step take you through the whole colorful form, and it's really a positive component along with the competencies and questions. It will, obviously, we mentioned a little bit of remote questions that may come or go, strengths and improvements from the employer site. We have some custom questions, both asked to sites and students, where again, you might get that grade in there. And really, how can we recommend the report? And now we're really pushed out to our students this semester, how they can use it on LinkedIn. And we're actually giving skill surveys, given a little reward for that, but really how to use this report, and really hoping that faculty sponsors will share the report, talk about the report, and that Excel is here to help them through that process as well, whether you be a faculty sponsor or student.
Perfect. All right. Reach out if you have questions. Take a peek at those phase videos if there's anything we can add or help with. I'm about to do one on timesheets because I love my videos. So thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Michelle and the whole Excel staff for helping out today.
All righty. Bye.